Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beverly, and I'm with my company is called Work Smart, Live Smart. This is an interactive workshop, so we're going to be kind of sharing some information, working together on ways of creating balance, of ways of being able to find the balance that you would like for your particular life. What balance looks like for me is going to look very different to somebody else. So it's really about looking at where you are now and where you would like it to be, okay? You should have your booklets in front of you. They should look like this. All right, so everybody has their booklet. So let's get started. Jackie Robinson, I love this quote. It says, "We can't predict the curveballs that are thrown our way, but we can determine how we step up to the plate." And so all of the stuff that we're going to be talking about when it comes to balance is, what are the choices that you're making, or what choices are you not making? What are you allowing just to happen and maybe not creating the balance, the kind of the life that you want to live? Now, some of you have been in this presentation before, some of you haven't, but we talked before about what health is. And so for those of you that have or haven't been in here, what comes to mind when we talk about health? What picture of health, or what's a definition of health? This is not the time to be shy. What do you think of when we talk about health? Good, not being sick. I like that one. What were you going to say over here?
I said well-being.
Well-being, okay. Anybody else? Choices, okay. Making healthy choices. Good. Anybody else? Having energy. Good. All right. So my particular definition of health is being able to live your life without feeling overwhelmed. So I'm going to tell you that again. Being able to live your life without feeling overwhelmed. And we won't go into too much about that because we did that in our first session, but I want you to be able to think about that in terms of balance. Being able to do the things that you want to do, being able to be involved in the things that you want to be involved in without feeling overwhelmed, without feeling like you're behind the eight ball. And so kind of looking at how those things are. So what kinds of things throw your life out of balance? What kinds of things get in the way when it comes to, which one? Stress. Okay, having kind of, now for what kind, is there any kind of particular stress that gets in the way? Just work kinds of things? All right. Money. Money gets in the way from doing the kinds of things. Wouldn't our balance look very different if we had an endless supply of money? Doesn't necessarily mean we'd be happier. It just means that it would look very different, doesn't it? Could mean we could be very happy, right? It depends. All right. What else? What else gets in the way of balance, of leading the life that you want to live? Oh, I'll go this way and this way. So what were you saying? Young children. Being responsible for somebody else, right? Making sure that their needs are met can take over the way you want to live your life. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say responsibilities.
Responsibilities. Those things that we kind of feel like we have to do, and maybe not, and maybe pushing things aside that we want to do, right? All right. So resiliency. So we talked about health, being able to live your life without feeling overwhelmed. What comes to mind when we talk about resiliency? What do you think of when we talk about resiliency? Some of you have been here before. It's okay.
Being able to snap back from something.
Good.
When something happens, how well you can snap back to what you were.
Okay. So that
Like an elastic band.
Like an elastic band, absolutely. For me, I kind of, and for those of you that have been here before, I have that picture of that Indian rubber ball. And that Indian rubber ball, you can whip it up against the wall and it bounces. Now, something different though than what you were saying is that when we go through these challenges, when we go through these issues, when we're being resilient, it does change us. We don't go back to the same person, do we? We're never the same as where we were before, but we learn from those experiences. It helps to change who we are, and it helps us to move forward. And so that we can learn that we can move forward through all of those challenges, all of those issues with the skills that we learn along the way. And so resiliency is being able to move forward. Now, here's my little guy. And for those of you that have had children, those of you that have, no, I wish, my little guy was much cuter than that even. Now they're teenagers, and I wouldn't say that, but
I thought it was a picture of your
I'm taking him in as kind of my little guy. So this little guy here, he's learning how to walk. And for those of you that have watched little children how to walk, they fall down, they bonk their head, they cry, they rub it off, but they keep on going. And they can be crying in one moment, and the next moment they're standing up and they're laughing, they're giggling, they're trying it again, and they roll and they toss and all kinds of bumps and bruises. Our resiliency allows us to be able to get through all of those life challenges with our strength and with spirit and with our sense of humor. Those are the kind of the skills that help us to be able to get through. And when we do that, that resiliency allows us to be able to live a life that is full and that flourishes. Our ability to balance our life allows us to have that flourishing life. The choices that we make to pull that life together is what allows us to be able to look back and say, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted it to be. We're not getting rid of all of the challenges. We're not getting rid of all of the stressors, but we're living the life that we would like to live. All right, so as we do this, even when we're busy, even when we're challenged, even when there's lots of stressors and things on our plate, even when we're looking after children or elderly parents and we're responsible for all kinds of things, we can still have a life that's full of joy and that's successful and that's motivating and that's meaningful. So in your booklets, this is where the work comes in. I want you to turn to page 2 and 3 in your booklets. And we're going to talk about what is it that we're trying to balance. And so on page 3, you'll see that there's 2 circles. And we want to take that first circle and we want to divide that first circle off according to how much time and energy you're spending on those 10 areas of your life. So everybody's going to need a pen, so you're going to have to dig for a pen, find a pen somewhere. You're going to divide that first circle off according to how much time and energy you're spending on those particular areas of your life. Now, I want to clarify a few of these. Health. Health includes sleeping. Health includes eating. It includes exercising, doctor appointments. So if you're sleeping, and I'm going to use a typical 24-hour kind of day, if you're sleeping a healthy amount, which is between kind of 7.5, 9-ish hours a day, at least 1/3 of your circle is going to be dedicated to health. If you're working about 8 hours a day, at least 1/3 of your circle then will be dedicated to career. Okay, so just kind of keep proportions in mind as you start this out. Personal growth would be any kind of learning opportunities that you're involved in. Physical environment are the chores. That's laundry, cleaning, mowing the grass, getting your car fixed. It's all of the stuff that needs to be done, okay? So I want you to go through, divide that first circle up according to how much time and energy you're spending on that particular area of your life. Now, does anybody need a pen? We're going to steal the 2 from up here. There you go. Do you need a pen?
No, I have one.
You have one? Okay, good. Now, I am going to come around and I'm going to check your circles to see kind of, A, how realistic you are, but what I'm really checking is your health section. I want to see what you're putting down there for sleeping, eating, exercising, kinds of things.
Physical environment is what again?
Chores. That's exactly my reaction. It's the stuff that needs to get done.
I'm just putting percentages because I can't do the circle.
That's okay. That's okay. It's very interesting how people tackle these circles. Some, have to get the exact number of hours of how they're spending this and then divide it up. Some people just start kind of crisscrossing and, oh, no, that's not the right. And whatever way you tackle it is just fine.
This is daily, right?
You can do it per day or you could do it over a week because some people's weekends are very different than their Monday to Friday, right? So your health looks like you're
It's
sleeping
very
about 2
small.
hours.
Well, that's what you were saying. So
So a third,
6 hours.
yeah, so a third, you remember like a peace sign comes down like this
Yeah.
on a circle? That's a third.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big piece of that pie, right? So if you're doing kind of a typical work day, it'll be a third and a third. So this shows me that you're sleeping at about maybe 4 or 5 hours a night. Yeah.
6, maybe 5 to 6.
Okay, okay. We need to make that one bigger. Oh, do you need a pen?
Yeah.
I can find you one. Let me see. Oh, I have my very good pen. My very, very bestest pen for you. I cleaned out all my other pens out of my purse, so I only have one left.
Oh, so
There.
now I'm stressed out.
Now you're stressed out. This has to be returned.
Yes. And I'll give him
Oh, and you don't have one other?
the bullshit.
Does anybody have an extra pen in their purse, their backpack or bag? Ah, perfect. If you could share there, that would be lovely. Thank you. All right. Good point. If some of these things you may not be doing anything with, you don't have to put them in your circle. So if, let's see, if personal growth, if you're doing nothing in that area, don't include it on the circle. Only those things that you're actually involved in, okay? So this shows me that you're sleeping about 4 to 5 hours a
It would
night.
be more than that. I just put it less because of the eating and whatever you said in terms of other health.
Yeah, so
The
that's
same thing I've worked on this year.
Okay.
Now the kids are older.
now that the kids are older, good. So we want to try to grow that a little bit.
I'm not sure.
Good.
I want to put health in there.
Oh.
Health is exercise?
Health is sleeping,
No, but where's physical
Oh.
environment? What's that?
chores.
Chores. Oh, that's separate.
Yeah. So your health is sleeping, eating, exercising. So that's a good piece for it. Okay. It is a lot.
I
Yes.
think I did it wrong because I did the 5 most important things to me that way, then the least 5 down
Oh, okay.
here. That was wrong. You wanted it all in there?
I wanted it all in the same circle. Well, here you go.
Oh, okay.
You can have a new book. I'm going to come and peek this way. Let me see. Here. Good.
So these 3 are just the same
Okay.
amount of time, but I couldn't.
Do it. This is the one I'm most concerned with, is how much time are you sleeping? So that's a good amount. That looks like you're sleeping about 7 to 9 hours
usually
sleep.
7 to 8. Yeah.
Good. How does yours look? Good.
Is that good?
Yep, so you're sleeping a good amount each night? Perfect. That's my number one. I like that you're doing a draft copy first. There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So that was our first circle. Some of you are still kind of drawing and scratching out some lines and putting some more things in, or you've got your kind of draft copy that you're working from, and that's okay too. What was difficult about making that first circle? Was there any difficulties, any kind of awarenesses, any kind of things? Oh, so a couple things. You have no life out of work, which was a good awareness. Okay, it takes up a big piece of the pie, doesn't it? Now, what did you say here?
I said, just determining the ratios of how much you do spend on it.
Yeah, because
It makes you think, like, romance, really? I don't know.
yeah, like really, it's even on my circle anymore? Yeah, got it. What were you going to say? And I'm not sleeping enough. Good. And so I liked what I go around and I check people's health. Why do you think I think that the health is the number one kind of thing on that pie chart?
Because people don't want to do things like sleeping, the self-care piece, right?
Yeah.
Acknowledging that.
There's 2 pieces with this. Self-care, we just think that it's going to happen. And often is the first thing that gets shoved out of the way when we get really busy. But without that, you've got nothing. if you are not sleeping and getting the right amount of sleep and taking care of your body and allowing your body to heal and get energy, you don't have the energy to be able to deal with these other things. So that's why I always look to see how realistic are we. Now, some of you just can't draw, and that's okay. Some of you are just like, yeah, that's about a third. And I'm like, no, that's not quite a third. So that's why I said it shows me that you're sleeping about 4 hours of sleep. No, I sleep more than that. Good. That's okay. I don't care if it's accurate on your circle. I just need to know kind of where it is in kind of relationship to time. How much are you kind of spending on that? All right, so that's the first circle. That's where your life is right now. The second circle, what I want you to do is to draw it out according to how much time and energy you would like to be spending on these areas. So some of them maybe weren't included on the first circle, but you would like them on your second circle. Some things that were maybe on your first circle, you don't even want on your second circle. However, if it's career, unless you can absolutely afford to retire tomorrow, you still have to include that career on the circle. So even though you might like to get rid of it, unless you can actually afford to get rid of it, it still has to be on that circle, okay? So, second circle, I want you to design it according to how you would like to see it. You got it this time? Perfect. I didn't make it to the middle the last time, so I'm going to sneak this way.
I'm trying to sleep more this time.
Good. Yes.
I'm also in school, so this takes up a lot of time. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, you've made it smaller. Is it going? Can you shrink it or not yet?
Not really.
How long are you in school for?
For another year.
Another year. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yep. It's busy, right? For a while.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Let's see. Family's bigger. You took your friends off?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's important to. I guess.
So career here, is this per week or per day?
Per day would be nice.
The per day? So this looks like it's only about 4 maybe hours a day? Is that it?
Yeah, so it would be nice if I don't have to work as much, but like
Okay, and is that realistic?
no.
No. It's supposed to still be somewhat realistic, okay? So unless you can really afford to shrink that career, it still has to take up the same amount on your pie. Yep. I know, that's unfortunate. That's the next step after, right? That's like the future one. So that's okay. How did you guys do?
That's all well.
She wants to retire.
Apparently I do, yes. So
Yes.
I was told.
And can you? Tomorrow?
No,
Next week?
no. Unless I won the lottery. In which case that would be- yeah, that's an extra piece in there, so we're all good.
I need to find jobs that give more balance.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's better.
Got it. How are your percentages doing?
They're more even.
They're more even? Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
We didn't even make it to chart.
I'm working on hours.
That's okay. It can be overwhelming to look at this stuff and try to figure out how to fit things in. How did it do here? Okay.
these have to remain the same, basically. My family, I like to increase and then just.
Good,
basically
okay.
that. But that's what I have right now.
Okay.
Does that seem okay?
Yep, I'm going to borrow your pen for a second. And I'm going to draw a circle right here. And if you're working 8 hours a day,
Oh, it's bigger, okay.
and then health, and the rest go in there.
Oh, okay.
Okay? That's if you're doing about 8 hours and 8 hours of each, okay?
So then, well then that, all that other stuff goes right in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it, yeah.
Okay? Did that one end up being career?
No, I gave up on it.
You gave up on that one.
What's the difference? I want it to be like.
You want it to be like that. Okay, I got it.
I'm struggling with this idea, because if you're saying health and career have to be a third of the pie, I don't have enough pie.
I know. I got it. That's exactly it. How did your stickies
Did it
go?
again.
Good.
But what I found is it's not so much that I want to balance it more differently as I want the interaction within it different. Does that make sense?
That's a good point. That's exactly the awareness I want you to come with.
That
Good.
is more my thing.
Good. All right. All right. Interesting. Again, realism is a bit of a challenge, isn't it? Trying to make it all kind of fit where we want it to fit. There's a couple more steps to this. So the next step that I want you to do is to go down that list on page 2. Lost my booklet here. So go down the list on page 2, and I want you to rate how satisfied are you with each of those areas. So let's take family, for instance. How satisfied are you with your family life? Each one of these is out of 100. So it's not something that you have to make total 100 for 100% satisfaction. It's how satisfied are you with family? Most days I'm about maybe 85% happy with my family life. But then I look at my physical environment, maybe I'm only 10% happy with my physical environment, the chores and things that have to be done. So go through each one and rate how satisfied are you with that particular aspect of your life, okay? And we're talking about right now.
Could you just give us a little benchmark? Like 85% would be pretty good. You're pretty happy, right? Or does it differ with people?
It differs for each person. So somebody looks at family and says only 85%.
I find that good. You can't be 100%.
So it depends what your benchmark, your own personal ones. And so this is really about how satisfied you are with it for yourself.
But under 50, you know that you're not happy, sort of, or 60, or
Yeah, I mean, again, and your benchmark may be, extremely happy. At the top of that may only be 75. Like each person's different, kind of where they rank it. Okay. If you're part of an organization, you volunteer. Now, what you're going to do, though, as far as satisfied, you may not be involved in anything, and that's exactly where you want it to be, so you're 100% satisfied. You may not be involved in anything, but you really want to be, so then your satisfaction is going to be lower, okay? So if it's not on even if it's not on your circle, it may be great or it may not be great. Romance would be another example. It may not be on your circle, but you're not okay with that, okay? The reverse is true, right? You may not even want it on there, and that's okay too. All right, So we have our first circle according to kind of where our life is at right now. We have our second circle according to where we think we would like it to be to bring it more in line with our balance for time and energy. And then we have how satisfied we are with these areas. What I'd like you to do now is think of how are you going to move from circle 1 to circle 2? What are the steps that need to happen? What are the things that need to happen to kind of pull the satisfaction level up in those areas, or to at least maintain the satisfaction level, and to make it more like the life you want it to be? So we're gonna try to do this because it's better in discussion. So if it's okay, if you want to come and join these guys and have a discussion, we'll leave the two of you there. We'll go 2 that way. You can join these 2 and make it a group of 3 here, and we'll do 2 and 2, okay? So you're going to talk about what's the difference between circle 1 and circle 2, and what are the strategies you're going to use to try to get more in line with circle 2. You can make it a group of 4 too. I figured that was going to happen. That's okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. There's some good strategy sharing going on and back and forth, and I want to capture some of those ideas. So we're going to go around group to group. Tell me a little bit about what were some of the big things that changed, and how are you going to get from circle 1 to circle 2? We're going to start up this way. So what were some of the things that you guys talked about?
So one of the things that I'd like to do is have less of more time for fun and relaxation. So I will have to cut back on physical environment.
Okay, and that's a really common one. You know, we want more fun, we want more time for ourselves, we want more me time, and we find that the chores, the physical environment just seems to bleed over into everything. So we need to kind of get a handle on that. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to cut that physical environment down a bit?
I guess I will have to organize my time better with my wife, because it seems we are all over the place, and we're always busy with the house chores. And
Good.
I don't know,
It's very typical. How many of you found that on a Saturday, oh, you know, you're just going to spend some time cleaning this little thing up, and by the time you're done, you know, 2/3 of the day is gone, and then you look back over the weekend and go, oh, all we did was bloody clean all weekend. You know, how was your weekend? Oh, fine. How was yours? You know, we didn't do anything except for the stuff. And most of us are really good at planning when we're at work. We have to-dos and stickies and everything to keep us on track. But we don't do that necessarily when we're in our private life, and sometimes those things just kind of take over. Email's another one. So especially even in work situations where we're just going to get rid of a couple of emails, and then 2 hours later, and you're still kind of going through the emails and stuff. So just keeping a handle on some of those small, insignificant things that can really add up and take away. Good. All right. Did you have any kind of comments, questions?
Free during the week, but then you use all your weekend doing that, so it's like a negative circle.
That's right. Yeah, because we're tired during the week, so we save it for the weekend, thinking we'll just kind of fit that in and we can do all the other fun stuff, but it ends up taking all of our time. Okay, good. How about for the two of you guys here? What did you talk about? You want to get more sleep. Perfect. How are you going to do that? Good. Sometimes we just have to let go of some of our expectations or the way that we were brought up. You know, sometimes we were brought up with certain kind of expectations and things have to be done a certain way. And life is busy, and sometimes those kind of things can't be maintained all the time. And so we have to be able to let them go. We have to be able to let them go and make sure that we get into bed, right? Because sometimes we let them go and then we'll sit down and just relax and watch TV, and then a couple of hours have gone by and we still haven't gotten any sleep, but we haven't accomplished anything, and then we feel guilty and bad and those kinds of things. Best thing, advice, how old are your children right now? 7 and 9. Do they have a bedtime? Like 9? Do you go to bed when they go to bed? Go to bed when they go to bed. It's a good family. It's also a good message for them. Because often what happens as teenagers, I can't wait to be an adult because then I don't have to go to bed, and then they go too far and they're not getting enough sleep. They need to see as adults that sleep is just as important as when I get older, so they don't kind of use that as a milestone of freedom. Okay, good. What about for you?
I said sleep as well needs some help, but my personal growth is quite big because I'm also in school right now. So I talked about maybe managing my time a bit better, doing a little bit of homework while I'm on my lunch break, so I can actually get into bed on time.
Good, okay. So sometimes we have to sacrifice a few other things when there's too many things on our plate, right? And it's not necessarily just school. It could be some of you may be getting into a caregiving situation where you're looking after elderly parents and having to try to fit that into the busy schedule as well. And so sometimes we have to kind of manage as best as we can for a little while. Sometimes we can do that over a short period of time. Things like sleep, and that's why I asked, how long are you in school for? So she still has another year left. So sleep is a really big thing to kind of manage over this period of time. Good. How about for here? What did you talk about?
We talked about family life, mostly because we have young kids.
Okay.
So a lot of the times for me, because I have 3 young boys, so a lot of the time is with the family, and Lily brought up a very good suggestion that I should utilize the family supports I have. So just tell my mother-in-law and mom that I'm going out.
That's
Care
right.
of the kids.
That's what I did. I'm not at that stage now. They have younger children, but I'm not there. But I still say, and I even say to my own kids, that if whenever you want a free night, just let me know. I won't go out. I think it's so important.
Yeah. You know that.
They just need to regroup and bring me the kids. I don't care. Like, I'll do it.
I like that you said use the family supports that are there. Sometimes we don't have family around, so even doing a trade-off with another couple.
Exactly.
You know, you can say, especially if times are tight, I'll look after your kids tonight while you guys go out. You do it for me next week.
Absolutely.
Or, you know, you hire a babysitter, you know, a friend of the family, because it's important that we still, I mean, I have romance up there as a separate circle. For a long time I had it under fun, relaxation, and romance, but we kind of pulled that out as its own separate piece. So whether it's your own me time or it's group time, whatever it is, but just to be able to have that built into the schedule. Good suggestion. Good. What about for you guys?
Found that for us, all of us, work is a huge piece, obviously, and we're also all commuting at least like an hour or so each way.
Yes.
So by the time we get home, we're exhausted, and we have jobs that we can technically leave the information here, but because of compounding and stuff, we're all thinking about work, and we're all doing work when we're supposed to be relaxing, not sleeping, that kind of thing. So our options were, like, unfortunately at this point, maybe find a position closer to home so you don't have the commute and you have more time at home, and there's other trade-offs like losing obviously benefits here and that kind of thing.
And support circles and that kind of stuff too. Yep, absolutely. And you're right, it is always about choice, isn't it? It's, you know, I was at a period in my career where balance needed to kind of change. And so I dropped a client that was more than 2/3 of my business, which was a very kind of scary thing, to kind of let go of that client and kind of focus on getting different clients that suited my balance a little bit better. We don't have to make such not necessarily drastic choices, but sometimes, I heard you mentioning the 407. I love the 407. The 407 is extremely expensive. It costs me an arm and a leg, but I'm in a completely different headspace driving on the 407. I'm in a much happier mood. I get there faster. I mean, the benefits outweigh the cost. So that's something that I'm willing to sacrifice for as far as commuting goes.
Which is entirely true, but then there's that financial piece. Like, I'm driving such a distance to get to work, and it's costing me $600 a month.
Yeah.
And $600 is coming off of my paycheck. How do I balance that? So, and still an hour drive.
That's right.
So, I mean,
It's all about those little choices along the way, right? So again, one of the things that we brought up earlier, somebody said that they wanted to add personal growth, but they couldn't figure out how are they ever going to do this. One of the studies I read said in the amount of time that most of us commute, which was I think 62 minutes on average, there and back, that most of us could learn a completely new language in 1 year. Now, if that's a goal, like if personal growth is a goal, and that's what you want to do, that's a great use of that time. I particularly go, especially when I was doing a lot of commuting, my travel time, my commuting time was my complete downtime. I very rarely even had the radio on because I just needed to come completely down so that I was completely ready for when my was tackled by my 2 little boys, right? So I needed my energy for that, so I'd come down. Now, when I'm driving now, I tend to listen more to music because I don't have that home kind of transition time that I have to prepare for. So you kind of work it into kind of what kind of fits, if that's. So for me, my commuting time now is more my fun and relaxation time. That's my kind of gathering time.
So how do you make it fun?
How do I make my commuting time fun? Now it's, now for me, because previously when the boys were little, it was about relaxation. So it was my silent kind of time. Now it's my music time. So I have about 3 different flavors of music depending on kind of what mood I'm in, and it could be country, it could be old, classic rock, or it could be kind of beboppy kind of, and you don't want to see me dancing, but it's that kind of thing. So it depends on what I'm kind of gearing up for, but that's how I add it into my time. The other thing that I do, and again, safety first, but I also use that as my connection time. So I'll often chat, especially if I'm driving later at night when I need to kind of keep myself invigorated, that's what I'll do on some of my phone calls to my family and just kind of catch up, because I can do that. I can still pay attention to the road. It's hands-free, that kind of thing.
What do you do with, like, your commute time? It's far from work, so.
I fill it. I either fill it or I don't fill it, but it's a choice that you need to make with that. Now, again, it may come down to the $600 is too much. The commute is taxing too much. I need to look for something else. And then there's a sacrifice on that end too. But it's always, always about choice. All right, I'm going to do one more group, and then we'll kind of move ourselves forward. What did you talk about?
Well, we just talked about, for me, it wasn't about anything specifically. It was just about possibly changing the balance within.
Good.
Like the dynamics. And you had to be aware, responsible, and then take action. You can't sit back and just dream without
Having a plan.
yeah.
Good. Yeah, sometimes the circle 1, circle 2 are pretty much the same. It's just how we're using the time and the energy within each of those. And I think that's what I heard you kind of saying. Even something as simple as the chores, bringing family time into that. And we talked about that in the first section today, where we need to stop using the word help. You know, get your family to help you with it. It's because that implies that it's your responsibility. It's about sharing the responsibility. So one of the things that I did, and I got great advice when my boys were little, but I bought a red laundry basket, a white laundry basket, and a black laundry basket. My laundry's up on my second floor where the bedrooms are. So when the kids were little, right from like toddler on up, they would run down to the laundry room, drop their clothes, throw it in the right basket, and then butt naked run back to their bedrooms, put their pajamas on. But they learned very quickly that that's how you do the sorting. And then as they got a little bit older, I actually wrote on my washing machine with marker, you know, here's the line that you turn the dial to. This is the line that you put the detergent into, you know, and they learned very, very early on how to do their own laundry. So little things like that where you're not taking ownership of everything. That it's a responsibility of a shared responsibility within the family. Because sometimes I think we take on things that are not necessarily only ours to take on. Does that make sense too? All right. So I'm going to cover off a few more pieces here. Let me just double check on timing. Perfect. All right. So a couple extra pieces. It changes depending on what life stage you're at. And so some of the strategies when your children are, 2 and 3 and 4 years old are going to be different than when they're teenagers, are going to be different when they've moved out of home. Romance is a great example. Do you remember when you first started your relationship? Everything was romance. Doing laundry was romantic. I mean, everything was part of that romance thing. And then you had children, and romance doesn't necessarily even show up on the circle for a while, right? And so you kind of it ebbs and flows. Some of those things are going to be part of your circle. Some of those things are not going to be part of your circle, depending on where you're at. You're in prime learning time, so that personal growth is going to be big. At some point, it's probably going to shrink and allow you to do some other things. So be aware that what balance looks like now is not what balance is going to look like later. And the biggest myth that's out there is that balance means equal. That if I spend 8 hours at work, I need to spend 8 hours with my family. Balance does not mean equal. Balance means that I'm satisfied with each of those areas of my life. And so that's why I did the satisfaction piece. It may not be on your circle, and you're 100% okay with that. That's okay. If you're only 2% satisfied with that area and it's not on your circle, then you need to find ways of being able to bring that into your balance. Okay? We talked about in the last session, which was all around connection, which is a really big part of resiliency, is that the more that you can have those bigger than self goals, the more your life is going to feel like it's in balance, because the more connected you are to the people around you. For me right now, my friendship part of my circle is really something that I'm really kind of putting my emphasis on, because when my kids were little, it really shrunk. And so now we're trying to kind of expand that. But what we've found is that when we work together on a goal, that makes that friendship piece that much more important, and we're much more likely to follow through on things. And so we plan our trips together, or we plan a service project together. The thing is, we get excited about the goal, and so we're connected. Even though we've been friends for 30 years, it allows us to keep that friendship moving forward. It allows us to work on something, and it's also that responsibility that we're not just going to let it go by the wayside. because we have something that we're working on. So even within your personal and professional, what are those kind of big things that you're aiming, you're striving for, those goals that are kind of there that are overriding? When we have those goals, then we start to make things our priority and we start to make decisions based on those priorities. This is one of my overriding kind of beliefs, is that if we don't control the events in our life, then the events in our life control us. It's very easy to let things happen, just to let kind of go with the flow. And then we start to get resentful and we start to blame and we start to think that other people or other things control our life. We have that ultimate control. We decide how we spend our time, we decide how we spend our energy, and we decide what the priorities are. And so if you're not making a decision, you've made a decision. Okay, so you need to be able to kind of keep focused on that and make the priorities your priorities. How many of you are trying to deal with the superhuman syndrome? You need to be the best at everything, the best at work, my house has to look just right, just so. My husband used to laugh when we first got married. I couldn't go to bed at night if the closet doors were open. Everything had to be in its place, everything had to be kind of the way it needed to be. And then we got a puppy. And Barley, our little puppy, was a black puppy and I had white carpets. And this poor little puppy, I think I traumatized it, chasing it with the vacuum cleaner, trying to keep things nice and clean. And then we had our first child. But I had in my head this expectation, this picture of, when they do it in the fashion magazines or everything looks just, the kids' room with everything kind of nicely coordinated and stuff and the toys are all lined up. And that little guy kept throwing things all over the place and it was always messy and I felt like I was always trying to run around trying to pick things up. And then we had 2 children and then, the mess got even bigger. But slowly I let go of some of those expectations. And slowly it was okay. So my expectation became just keep it away from the front door in case somebody did come over. I didn't want them to hurt themselves before they ever actually got in the door. So we have to watch and manage our expectations. Sometimes we don't delegate or sometimes we don't ask for help because we've been told that a good mom does this or a good wife or husband does this or a responsible person does this. And we let those expectations of others get in the way.
Well, I just want to make a point on that that's how I was raised, right? You had to be good at a good mom, a good housekeeper. I mean, the first thing I had cesarean for both children. But when my mom called to see, she didn't call to see how I was. She says, is your house up to date? Or did you make dinner for your husband? Like, what? What about me? If I'm dying from this cesarean, I just had a kid.
Yeah.
But that's the expectation. It's very hard to get over.
It is. It gets ingrained.
It's ingrained in you. And you're saying, well, what do you mean? One dish is not, like, really? But it was hard.
It's hard to look past some of that stuff and leave it there. And that sense of guilt. How many of you felt so guilty that you've turned around and said, yes to something that you had intended to say no?
With my mom, I said, no, it's done.
Yeah.
Well, she wouldn't know.
She wouldn't know until she came over.
Nice, I'm saying I still have some stuff to do. And she goes, what? Then I learned the hard way to say, it's done.
Yeah. Lying is good sometimes.
Sorry, if it's going to make me feel better.
Exactly.
I was just trying to bring up the point that our life and my children now is so much different than the way my mom was raised. They weren't raised with all these things, so if they occupied themselves with the house, that's great, but other generations don't. That's
right, and we need to be able to let go of that, and that can be really tough. That sense of guilt, and I like this, it says, often we feel guilty and we feel that regret, but it's such a waste of energy that it takes up a huge amount of energy that we could be putting towards those things that actually are fun, that make us happy, that keep us moving forward and making us resilient. And so if you've made the decision, if you've said, this is my priority, this is how I want my life to be, this is the balance that I want, be okay with that. It may not fit with somebody else's model. It may be very different. If a lot of people looked at my life when my kids were little, I spent a lot of time traveling and on the road. You would look at my life and say it was out of balance, but it was the perfect balance at that particular time. It worked.
Did you have children with you?
Nope, they were in daycare, which was unheard of in my family circle to have somebody else raise your children. And that's the term that they would use if they were raising my children. I absolutely raised those kids. And they were very independent. So there was a downside to it. there's a downside for not being there all the time, but I also had control over my schedule. So I made sure that I was at every play, I was at every kind of track meet, I was at because I had control over my schedule in that way. So balance can look very different from person to person, and that's okay. And it's going to look very different as you go through the stages of your life. And to be okay with, this is what balance is going to look like now, doesn't mean it's always going to be this way. One last thing that I really want to kind of put out there when it comes to balance, and I recently heard this, and it's your burden to blessing ratio. How much, when you're talking about your day, are you talking about the burden of life or the blessings within your life? I have to do this. This is, oh my gosh, I got to do this again, or, oh, this happened to me. It's that the downside of things. And it's, often we talk about negativity, but it's about the opportunities. What are the blessings? What are the good things that have happened? What are the lights that are there, the people that you've hung out with, all of the fun stuff? So what's that ratio? And the more you put the ratio up in favor of the blessings, the more satisfied, motivated joy you're going to have within your life. And so I think that that's a big aspect when it comes to creating the life that you want to live. What we do know is gratitude is the #1 personality trait that leads to happiness. And so if you're looking at how do I bring more happiness, fun, and joy into my life, be more grateful. Be consciously aware of the things that are happening and be grateful for the positive things that are happening, because that increases that blessing to burden ratio, and we find that increases your happiness factor. So it's something simple. You may not be able to change what balance looks like right now. You may not be able to change from circle 1 to circle 2 right now, but you can change the perspective that you have on that. And so again, that's my challenge for you for this. I've come to the end of my time. The SOS principle stands for situation, ourself, and support. And we've been talking about that over these last 3 sessions. We have one more left tomorrow. But it's really about making sure you have strategies in all 3 of those areas. Today was really focused on that first S. What are you going to do to bring balance into your life? What decisions are you going to make? How are you going to make those decisions? What are your priorities? How are you going to put that plan together? And the more that you focus and be consciously aware of it, the more that life is going to be exactly the way you want it to be. I have come to the end of my time. I hope I've given you some things to think about, some places to start. It's a very short time for us to be together, but it's hopefully a time for you just to have a few moments to think, to be aware, to kind of try some things out, to hear other people's perspectives, and to go away with some thoughts that maybe you didn't have when you first came in here. So I hope I've been able to do that for you. There is no such thing as a workshop without the workshop evaluation. So if you could take a moment to fill that out, throw it down here on the table before you go. If you have questions, I'm going to stick around, so come on up and ask. Otherwise, I hope to see you tomorrow. We're going to be talking really about mental health, looking at depression and anxiety. And so we're going to kind of drill right down into some specifics around what does that look like, what are some of the options that are available. So hopefully we will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you for joining me.